Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.
Good morning. It's Monday, February 23rd. I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures. So let's get you set up here for the trading day ahead. President Donald Trump announced a 15% global duty following the Supreme Court's decision on Friday to avoid some of those previous tariffs. You do have stock futures slightly lower. S&P 500 bit off of its lowest level of the session here, but still a sea of red across the screen. You do have the volatility index edging just a bit higher. And one of the benefits of these tariffs here is that gold market up 1.8%, sitting at 51.72. You do have the U.S. president. He's also weighing in a big strike on Iran here if those talks fail. Oil futures are slightly lower here, but they've been climbing as this night session here progresses. Crude oil futures sitting at 66.35. That's for the April contract. You do have Bitcoin futures briefly sliding below that $65,000 mark. That's the second time we've seen that this month. And then we do also have a powerful storm coming across New York City. So nat gas up about 2% here, and crude oil futures now turning back into the green for the session. The key events you're going to want to watch this week here include President Trump's State of the Union address tomorrow. You got NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday and PPI on Friday. You'll get that gold market here, the 10-day average true range sitting at $186, and the gold volatility index edging higher to 36. The highs overnight was 51.98. The lows was 51.20, above that key level resistance right around that 51.22 on up to about 51.50 level. So breaking above that, we'll see if those levels on the lows, if they'll hold support. Now looking at March silver, the highs overnight, 87.68. The lows, 84.56. The 10-day average true range consolidating here right around $8.50, and silver volatility edging higher, and a big move higher here back over that 80 level indicates quite a bit of volatility here. Remember, upside moves up $4 in the overnight session. Well, that is an increase of volatility as well, and we're sitting up about 5% on this session. You'll get the precious metals, the ETF flows. They sold gold, silver, platinum, and palladium here on Friday, and if you look at those ETF flows for gold, the exchange-traded funds, they only cut about 15,000 troy ounces. In total, gold held by ETFs up about 1.2% this year. You do have gold up about 18% this year, and it tacked on about 2.2% in the last trading session, and up 1.84 as of this recording. You'll get the silver ETF flows are continuing to liquidate, down about 0.7%, and year-to-date total ETF flows down 5.4%. So the ETFs cut another 5.33 million troy ounces of silver on Friday here in his sixth straight day of declines. Looking at last week's changes, the ETFs, they increased gold, they reduced silver, they reduced platinum, and also palladium. The gold-silver ratio sits at about 59-1, so that has been edging lower as well. You'll look at stock futures again in the red across the board, and out of the 427 S&P 500 companies that have reported so far, 74% have managed to beat those analyst forecasts, and 21% have missed. We're going to get to December readings on factory orders, durable goods, capital goods here, and Fed's Waller is scheduled to speak here at 7 a.m. Looking at the interest rate cut expectations, really dealing a blow here in edging lower with only a 4.1% likelihood that they'll cut rates in March. You look at April, it's a 16%, and June's more like 50-50. So they're really waiting to get Powell out of the way here and some clarity as far as what's going on with Iran, what's going on with these tariffs and things like that. So you might not see that first rate cut till July, and also another one towards the end of the year. You'll get the dollar index edging just a bit lower. You do have the euro currency turning back into the green here, with the pound, the Canadian dollar, and the yen all higher. The Swiss franc, Mexican peso, New Zealand, and the Australian dollar all edging a bit lower. It's a sea of red across the board in the agricultural markets here. And you look at 10-year treasury yield sitting at 4.08%, with the 10-year futures just under the 113 mark. Again, Bitcoin down at 66,255. That's down about $1,500. And S&P Gamma exposure that sits at negative. So your key strikes to watch here: 6,850, 6,800, 6,700 on the downside with the S&P, with 7,000 at resistance. You go across the pond, well, those European stocks fell. They're really just waiting for clarity on the tariffs. And you go to Asian equities, they rose and they're trading right near those record highs, driven by gains in tech, with the MSCI Asia Pacific Index rising about 1%. And you go over to Hong Kong, that Sang Index here, gaining 2.5%. So quite an explosive move higher in the Hang Seng. So you guys got any questions here? You want to get involved with the silver market? There is a 100-ounce futures contract now trading here and multiple months out. And then you look at the gold futures, they've got the 1 ounce, the 10 ounce, the 50, the 100-ounce contracts. So you get quite a bit of exposure there. Copper futures look interesting as it's the only futures in the red. And I'm going to inquire to the exchange about a smaller platinum contract because platinum futures really whip it around quite a bit, and the only contract they have is a 50-ounce contract. So maybe a 5 or a 10-ounce contract might be appropriate given some of the volatility in the market. So if you guys got any questions, shoot an email to info@bluelinefutures.com. Remember, futures and option trading does involve risk of loss. May not be suitable to all investors. Good luck. Good trading.
Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.